It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Attention, you're listening to the Todd Huff Radio Show, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk radio. Be advised that the content of this program has been documented to prevent and even cure liberalism, and listening may cause you to lean to the right. Here's your conservative, but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
Well, my friends, you have tuned in here to America's home for conservative, not bitter talk. It's my pleasure to be here with you today. Hour 2 of the program. If you missed hour number 1, shame on you, my friends. I'm kidding. You can always catch those episodes as archives on our website or wherever you listen to podcasts, ToddHuffShow.com or Apple Podcasts or Spotify or you name it. You can check those out there. I want to kind of continue all those shifting gears here. We're talking about Iran, Israel, Trump, all that's happening there. I want to now shift gears to how some of this is being covered. Newsbusters has an article out that is in the stack of stuff today. If you want to check that out, you can go to ToddHuffShow.com, stack of stuff, and you'll see anything that I may have referenced or alluded to during the program. If you want to read more about it, you will find it there. But Newsbusters says, they've got a story on David Fromm, who basically is calling Trump a chicken, which is what we used to do back in the 80s. I don't know if that's even allowed. Is that hatred towards chickens? I don't know. But David Fromm said that Trump chickens out, always chickens out, kind of mocking Trump just hours before Trump decided to make these daring strikes, taking out nuclear facilities in Iran. Fromm is a make-believe Republican. But these folks who hate Trump, they can't see straight. It's just remarkable to me. You can dislike Trump, but do you have to give up your ability to be rational and thoughtful and actually make sense? This doesn't make sense. I don't know where anyone gets off saying that Trump is chicken. He chickens out. It makes no sense to me. Of all the people that have ever led this country, calling Trump a chicken is a bold statement. It really is. So that's where we're headed. There's plenty of other stuff to get to as well, but that's where I want to start. Friends, think about this, though, as we get started. Our investments, your investments are like seeds that you plant. They grow, they multiply, but are they bearing the kind of fruit that you want? At 48 Financial, they believe that your money should reflect your values. They specialize in wealth management and biblically responsible investing, screening out companies that do not align with your faith. It's all part of their purpose-centered financial planning, helping you live a life of meaning and purpose. Want to see if your investments align with your values, your current investments. If you want to see if you're funding things, if your investments are helping to fund things that are in alignment with your values or not, there's an easy way to figure this out. All you have to do is go to 48financial.com/Todd. That's 48financial.com/Todd. 48 Financial. They're here to worry about your money so that you don't have to. Take that test and see, my friends. Because listen, funding things like Planned Parenthood or the trans agenda or the anti-Semitism or whatever. Antifa, these are the sorts of things some of these radicals fund. Those are things that, I think if you're aware of it, you would at least, if you had another option that made financial sense for you, you might take that into consideration. This tool will help you do that. All right. Let's start today, my friends. Headline here, newsbusters.org. Bunker busted. David Fromm claims Trump always chickens out hours before Iran strike. This is perfect, by the way. Talk about getting Jim Cramered. The Atlantic's pompous loudmouth of a staff writer, David Fromm, committed an unforced error by showcasing how he literally knows nothing about the Trump doctrine or on military strategy or foreign policy. Fromm attempted to make it seem like Iran had President Trump's number in a June 21st screed published at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. The mullahs of Iran joined the bet that Trump always chickens out. Fromm was responding to Trump's retrospectively deceptive tactic to make it appear he was waiting 2 weeks before a decision on whether the U.S. would conduct targeted strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. A dramatic victory seemed poised to tumble into Israel's laps. Why not his? But the hours passed. Trump reconsidered. Instead of acting, he postponed. He said that a decision would come within, quote, 2 weeks. Fromm chirped. That was a quote from Fromm's piece here. Fromm, behaving like he got a zinger in a Trump, mocked how, quote, Trump is vulnerable to the negotiate to delay strategy because he has not taken any of the necessary steps to lead the nation into war he once seemed ready to join. Just hours later, U.S. B-2 bombers would strike 3 of Iran's nuclear sites with 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs on Trump's orders. On the 2 weeks deception, a Trump advisor admitted to Axios that it was a head fake. Trump knew the media couldn't resist amplifying it. He knew the Iranians might think he was bluffing. Well, everyone was wrong. No kidding. But Fromm's take was a faceplant. So there's a post here from X, I guess. 2 weeks. This is his post, David. This was posted at 12:44 on June 21st, which would have been Saturday. So we're now down to hours before the airstrikes are about to commence here. David Fromm writes this: 2 weeks is what Trump says he's backing away. Says when he's backing away from a commitment he did not mean, whether sanctions on Russia, a health care plan, or an infrastructure bill. The headline of Fromm's piece was how Tehran might be playing Trump. Now Fromm is the butt of the joke on social media, similar to CNBC's Cramer, when another of his stock predictions goes kaput. Reading Fromm's diatribe like he was some kind of authority on Trump's thought process in the first place is sure to evoke some giggles. This is what Fromm wrote in part. Time for diplomacy to work. Perhaps that might be the case in another administration. And this one, as attentive Trump watchers have learned, the 2 weeks promise is a way of shirking a decision altogether, whether on Russia sanctions, deadline lapsed on June 11th, without action, trade deals, deadline lapsed June 12th, without result, or a much heralded infrastructure program, deadline lapsed May 20th, 2017, without action then or ever. Yeesh, this is like watching Sideshow Bob from The Simpsons stepping on rakes. In fact, Trump's decision, the article says here, would constitute the largest B-2 operational strike in U.S. history and the second largest B-2 mission ever flown, exceeded only by missions after 9/11. So look, bottom line, there's more to this, but bottom line is that these folks are blinded by their hate for Trump. I even talked about this last week. I said, is this, I think I used the word head fake. Is this a, an actual time frame? It just seemed odd to me at the time that Trump would give his opponents, especially on something like this, right? You've got, you've got somebody here, or you've got a situation here that you're negotiating or dealing with someone regarding an actual war. This is not the same thing as some of these other policies. And Trump you've probably seen the sound bites, the clips of Trump saying, we'll figure this out in 2 weeks, in 2 weeks. And, the idea here is that this is just something Trump says to pass the time, I guess, and to say it and then hope people forget about it. So let me state clearly, David Fromm has been a Republican, supposedly. And when Trump won re-election in November, I guess Fromm officially left the Republican Party. Big whoop. He left the Republican Party and became an independent, I guess, proving he's an idiot, I guess. I shouldn't say that. I take that back. Proving he doesn't know what he's talking about, I'll say that. Anyway, but these folks, they say things, and literally hours later, they are proven to be as wrong as you can possibly be. I don't know how many times Trump has to deliver on something monumental like this before you're just a little bit more cautious. I mean, what sort of forethought or personal understanding did it take to realize that Trump very possibly knew what he was doing when it came to this situation? What sort of insight did it take to realize that out of all the presidents that we've had in modern history, the one who is able to achieve some positive momentum for this country, for our allies, for our interest around the world, what is so hard to see that this is the guy who actually has a history of doing that? I'm not suggesting he's perfect. I'm not suggesting he's the Messiah. That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm just saying if you compare these things line by line, I mean, who was in office when Putin invaded Crimea? Was it not Barack Obama? Who was in office when Putin invaded Ukraine? Was it not Joseph Robinette Bribery? Who was in office when we abandoned Americans and American allies in Afghanistan in an absolute debacle just so Biden could get a headline? I gave you the answer there. Just so the president could get a headline that says the longest war in American history has been ended under President Joseph Robinette Bribery. I mean, was it not Biden? I mean, it doesn't take much. Who avoided starting new wars? By the way, this is not a new war. That's something else I want to talk about here, by the way, and I'll do that in a moment. But even if this erupts into something else, who gets the fault and the blame for this? This is not the same thing as starting a war or putting our guard down and leading to attacks on this great country. Remember all the times Clinton could have had Osama bin Laden but refused to take him? What about that? That seems to be relevant to this discussion to me. Look at all the times that he was offered up. Osama bin Laden was offered up to Bill Clinton on the metaphorical silver platter, but yet he did not take him. And then, of course, a short time later, we had to deal with the impact of 9/11. We'll talk about this a little bit more in a moment, my friends. Are you tired of spending your hard-earned money at businesses that turn around and support leftist causes? Well, that's exactly why we created Freedom Marketplace. It is a free, searchable directory of businesses that share your conservative values, businesses that have vowed not to support leftist candidates or leftist causes. There's no login required, no strings attached, just good, patriotic businesses pushing in the same direction you are. Check it out today, freedommarketplace.net. That's freedommarketplace.net. Liberty and business for all, my friends. This situation with Iran, let me say this. There's a difference there's a difference by directly going in between directly going in and starting a war unprovoked, right? That's something that I would say a nation like Iran is guilty of doing, especially through their proxies. There's a difference between that and taking a defensive posture to take out people who are targeting this country. And then there's another situation like what we have in Iran, what you could certainly say is a defensive posture because they've been fighting the United States through their proxies for a long time. Iran is a situation that, they are hell-bent on forcing their worldview through any means necessary on at least the region of the world that they find themselves in the Middle East. And, of course, worldwide. We know that they have desires, ambitions to establish at least a regional caliphate, which, of course, if you're willing to make it known that your objective is to have a religious caliphate running the Middle East, that you're only a half a step away from wanting one to rule the entire world. And my friends, that is where Iran is, and they believe that they are justified and are engaged in a holy war in so doing. This is what they believe. This is how they think. And so who's responsible? I think about that. I think about this in terms that, most people can understand. You think of the bully complex in school, and you think if there's somebody who's a bully in high school, the only solution ultimately to the bully is someone who's bigger and badder or tougher or more skilled than the bully who's willing to step in and tell the bully to knock it off. And then, if necessary, to back it up. We've all seen this. This is not complicated. In fact, this is about as simple as it can become. You got some troublemaker over there spouting off at the mouth, threatening people, hurting people, mistreating people. And then you've got the guy who stops the bully. And you walk up to the bully and you say, hey, dude, that's not how this is going to go. Knock it off. And the bully's got a choice then. The bully can say, what are you going to do about it? Which is usually what they do because they have a ego, an image that they want to save. And then the bully buster can say, look, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. If you punch that kid again, I'm going to bust you in the mouth. I don't know how else to say this. And you know how these stories end. Every once in a while, the bully might be a tough guy who takes this guy out. But even by being challenged, often the bully backs down because really the bully isn't as brash and as bold and as brazen as they want you to believe. They want to fill the part of tough guy without actually having to be the tough guy. Years ago, before I got into this business, actually when I first realized I wanted to get into this business, I was a horse farmer. That sounds made up, but that's the truth. I lived on a 200-acre standard-bred horse farm. I helped to raise standard-bred horses. These were the types of horses they would race at Hoosier Park in Anderson. I was there before, Shelbyville. Maybe Shelbyville was getting built. I'm not really sure. But they raced at Anderson, Hoosier Park. And we had some that raced, but typically we would sell them as yearlings at the auction. And so we had a lot of mares or even retired horses on the horse farm. And it was interesting. I was just talking about this the other day. There was a horse, I can say her name. Her name was Crunches. And I loved Crunches. Crunches was the number one, alpha female of the brood mares. And she was gentle and a likable horse. She would walk up to you. She would have her head low. She actually looked very meek, very almost unassuming. But those horses were terrified of Crunches. But see, Crunches never had to really do anything because there was a number 2 that she was often hanging out with. This horse's name was Kaiser's Cousin, spelled with the Keyser. Kaiser's Cousin, which I think you could probably find records of their races at Hoosier Park. I don't know if they were even racing at Hoosier Park. They didn't race when I was there. They were brood mares when I was there, but they both, were both retired racehorses. Crunches had a great career. I'm not so sure about Kaiser's cousin. Kaiser's cousin was bigger. Kaiser's cousin was meaner. She had an attitude. I didn't like Kaiser's cousin. Kaiser's cousin would bite you if you weren't paying attention. She was high-strung. The owner's wife had a nickname for Kaiser's cousin that I can't really say on this show, but it wasn't very nice because Kaiser's cousin was pretty much how she described her. And so, but why was she like this? Is the interesting thing. She was like this because she was number 2. And one of the reasons that Crunchus could be so at ease was because Crunchus never even paid attention to another horse in the, in the pack, I guess, unless that horse stepped ahead of Kaiser's cousin. So in other words, Crunchus could be chill and relaxed and not worried about whatever was happening. She was very secure in herself, so to speak. And Kaiser's cousin was always on high alert. Who's going to take me out? I know I'm clearly not number 1. I'm number 2. Crunchus isn't worried about anybody until someone else comes in here and overthrows me for number 2. I mean, probably more detailed than she thought about it, but she knew that her position was always at risk when we would bring in new horses. And Crunchus, the number 1 horse, the nice horse, the alpha female, if you will, never got upset or worked up about anything because no horse ever challenged her because they never overthrew Kaiser's cousin. And the bully, and this is the point, the bully often acts like Kaiser's cousin. The bully is number 2, or in the case of Iran, maybe number 32. And they're so that their self-value is so tied to how people view them, their power, their strength, and all that sort of stuff. And they don't really have it, and so they put on a big. Now, I'm not saying they don't have any. Don't misunderstand me. They've got weapons. They've got a military that's a force to be reckoned with, but not in comparison to what the United States of America has. And there's a part of that I think challenges their ego. There's a part of that it maybe embarrasses them. They have to save face. It's all about show. And basically, what Trump did was he came in to the area, told them what was up, told them what was going to happen, took care of business, gave them an opportunity to save face, and now he's solved this. But people like David Fromm just don't seem to care to get that. I don't think that they want to get that. I think they hate this guy so much that they would almost rather have problems with Iran than have the guy that they hate solve problems with Iran. And that's the direction we're headed. I don't know where this story ends. There certainly could be more conflict to come from this. I am worried. In fact, that's what we're going to talk about next segment, what happened with the enriched uranium, which we'll hit on next. But anyway, people like David Fromm have no idea what they're talking about, and they're awfully self-righteous and think pretty highly of themselves. I'm taking a time out, my friends. Quick time out. You're listening to Conservative Not Better Talk. I'm your host, Todd Huff. Back in just a minute.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back, my friends. So, for the break, I had alluded to a question: what happened to Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium? This seems like a relevant part of the conversation. This is at hotair.com, written by John Sexton. As Ed, he's referencing a colleague at hotair.com, wrote earlier today, there's some level of confidence that the U.S. strike on Fordo, that's the Iranian nuclear facility in the one that we had the most concern about, succeeded in destroying the underground lab where Iran was using centrifuges to enrich uranium. we won't know for certain for a long time because at the moment, no one can get to Fordo to inspect whether anything is left, but there's a decent chance the lab is gone. However, shortly after the strike, a news site in Iran claimed that much of the enriched uranium Iran had stored at the site had a news site, I should say, not a news site, a new nuclear site. A news site in Iran made the claim that much of the enriched uranium Iran had stored at the site, at the nuclear site in Fordo, had been moved somewhere else. So, this seems relevant, right? So here's the clip. Following President Donald Trump's statement that the U.S. Air Force obliterated Iranian nuclear sites on Sunday, Tehran's state-run Mehr News, MEHR, agency reported that the enriched uranium at the Fordo site had been moved elsewhere beforehand. Most of the uranium that was previously stored at the Fordo enrichment facility had been moved to another location, Mehr reported, citing an unnamed, of course, Iranian source. A report leaked earlier this month by the Vienna-based IAEA said that as of May 17th, Iran had amassed 408.6 kilograms, that's 900.8 pounds, of uranium enriched up to 60%. That enriched material is a short technical step away from weapons-grade levels of 90%, according experts. Now, you have to forgive me. I go back in memory here. I thought the Iranian nuclear deal only gave the Iranians authority or the permission to enrich uranium up to like 3.64% or 67%. I think I just read that. Maybe I'm wrong. That's obviously significant. It's 20 times more enriched. Going back to the article here, is there reason to think the stockpile might have been moved prior to the strike? The answer appears to be yes. First, several news outlets are citing these comments from J.D. Vance's appearance on ABC's This Week yesterday. I'll play this clip really quickly. I listened to this the other day.
The UN's Atomic Energy Watchdog said that Iran had 900 pounds of highly enriched uranium. Do we know what has become of that? Was it destroyed in this attack? Do we know? That's a big stockpile.
We're going to work in the coming weeks. Yeah, John, we're going to work in the coming weeks to ensure that we do something with that fuel, and that's one of the things that we're going to have conversations with the Iranians about. But what we know, John, is they no longer have the capacity to turn that stockpile of highly enriched uranium to weapons-grade uranium, and that was really the goal here. Uranium is not that difficult to come by, John, but enriching uranium up to the point of a nuclear weapon, that is what the president put a stop to last night.
Okay, did you catch that? We have to decide what we're going to do with that stockpile or some such thing. So from his comments, it seems that there may be a stockpile, or we may not know, and he's just speaking in terms of, listen, if there is a stockpile, we have to figure out what to do with it. I mean, there's genuine questions about this because this, again, is a problem. Now, it's not weapons grade yet, and it appears we have good reason to believe that the Iranians, don't have the capability because of what we've done to their facilities. They don't have the capability to currently enrich that uranium from where it is now at 60% all the way up to 90%. Now, how far away are they from that? I don't know. This is the same interview, I believe. He's been maybe in multiple places. But I believe it's the same one where he said that we delayed Iran's ability to get a nuclear weapon by years, I believe is what his opinion is. And I don't know. I'm just telling you what they're saying. Head back to the article here. Also, Israeli intelligence suggests they may have moved some of the material just prior to the strike. The Israeli military's initial analysts concluded that the site, the target of American and Israeli military planners for more than 26 years, sustained serious damage from the strike, but had not been completely destroyed. But there was also evidence, according to two Israeli officials with knowledge of the intelligence, that Iran had moved equipment and uranium from the site in recent days. And there was growing evidence that the Iranians, attuned to Mr. Trump's repeated threats to take military action, had removed 400 kilograms, or roughly 880 pounds of uranium enriched to 60% purity. This is just below the 90% that is usually used in nuclear weapons. The 60% enriched fuel had been stored deep inside another nuclear complex near the ancient capital of Isfahan. Rafael Mariano Grassi, the Director General of the IAEA, said by text that the fuel had been last seen, by his teams of UN inspectors about a week before Israel began its attacks on Iran. In an interview on CNN on Sunday, he added that, quote, Iran has made no secret that they have protected this material. Asked by text later in the day whether he meant the fuel stockpile, which is stored in special casks small enough to fit in the trunks of about 10 cars, had been moved, he replied, I do. That appeared to be the mystery about the fuel's fate that Mr. Vance was discussing. So the enriched uranium wasn't at Fordo, but Secretary of State Rubio suggested our strikes on Isfahan may have destroyed the stockpile. In an interview with NBC's Meet the Press, Rubio said that while no one will know for sure for days, he doubts that Iran's uranium stockpile was relocated before the operation. I doubt they moved it. They can't move anything right now inside of Iran. I mean, the minute a truck starts driving somewhere, the Israelis have seen it and they've targeted it and taken it out. So our assessment is we have to assume that that's a lot of 60% enriched uranium buried deep under the ground there in Isfahan. The reality is the key, adds Rubio, this really is the key. Saying Iran should now, quote, bring the stockpile out of the ground and turn it over. Multiple countries around the world will take it and down blend it. That's what they should do with it. So there's uncertainty. This is a long article. I'm not going to get into all of it, but not super long, but longer than I want to talk about here. But the bottom line is it doesn't appear that we know where this nuclear potential highly enriched uranium, not to the highest weapons grade level, but high enough of an enrichment level to be very close to being weapons grade. We don't know for certain, was it destroyed? Was it moved and destroyed at a subsequent site, or is it sitting somewhere else? Is it sitting in the trunk of a car somewhere, in a couple of trunks of cars? What are they going to do with this? It was also referenced in here that they believe that they moved some equipment. Were they able to salvage some of this equipment? Was some of this equipment, does it give them a fast track to resume their nuclear program, their nuclear weapons program? These are questions that, of course, everybody wants the answers to. It's going to take some time to get them. And candidly, we're dealing with people who have done nothing but lie from the very beginning. They're not going to come clean and tell us the truth. We're going to have to figure this out some way or another. I don't know, but this does give us reason to have pause and to be concerned about where this is, if it exists. Do they have a way to move this closer to weapons grade? That seems to be, of all the questions, that seems to be the one that we have the surest answer to, which is we've taken out their ability to really advance anything from where it is right now to weapons grade, at least for the immediate and foreseeable future. So that's where we are. Wanted to update you on that. Friends, you know, if you listen to this program for long, that one of the things I used to do besides being that horse farmer, I had a promotional products company that we sold about 6 years ago. We have relaunched because my non-compete has expired. We've relaunched Red, White, and Brand, which helps you put your logo on almost anything from apparel to trade show materials and banners to promotional products. My friends, almost anything, and almost is used very loosely there, almost anything you need your logo on, Red, White, and Brand can help you achieve. redwhiteandbrand.com is the website. Promo code Todd will save you 10% on purchases made there. And if you shop online, you'll get free shipping on online orders as well. redwhiteandbrand.com, promo code Todd. Quick timeout is necessary, my friends. Back here in just a minute.
Riley Herbst from 2311 Racing here, and you know what grinds my gears? Waiting for coffee. But instead of counting frappes and lattes, I fire up Chumba Casino. No apps, no fuss, just fun social casino games to pass the time. By the time my coffee's ready,
order for Riley.
I've already taken a few victory laps. Next time you're stuck waiting, make it entertaining. Play for free at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back, my friends. The Iranians are apparently threatening the head of the UN nuclear agency for revealing the extent of their illicit enrichment. This is reported by Breitbart.com. That's the headline I just referenced and read. Ali Larijani, an advisor to Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, threatened the head of the IAEA, Rafael Grossi, over this weekend, vowing to, quote, settle accounts with him following the end of the current conflict. Once this war is over, we will settle accounts with Grossi, Larijani wrote in Farsi on his official Twitter account on Saturday. I'm looking at the tweet now. I have to take people's opinion as to what that says because I don't read Farsi. Grossi, an Argentine career diplomat, has led the IAEA since December 2019 and oversaw inspections on Iran's nuclear site in the past. The international organization has repeatedly warned throughout the year that the rogue Islamic regime had accelerated its enrichment of uranium, and on July 12th, declared Iran in breach of its nuclear non-proliferation obligations for the first time in nearly 20 years. Well, there you go. The recent public threats issued by Larijani against Grossi came after both Israel and the United States launched strikes against Iran's nuclear sites and days after Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman, I'm not even going to try, accused Grossi of betraying the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty and turning the IAEA into, quote, a partner to the unjust war of aggression against Iran. You betrayed the non-proliferation regime. You made IAEA a partner to this unjust war of oppression. You turned IAEA into a tool of convenience for non-NPT members to deprive NPT members of their basic right under Article 4, any clear conscience, he wrote on social media on Thursday. Anyway, so they're threatening the head of the IAEA, who basically called them out, who exposed the fact that they were violating their agreement, which of course we have known, suspected, and, known, I would say known. Some might have suspected this for a long time. So now they're out there threatening to settle accounts at the end of this war, at the end of this battle. So that's out there as well. Got a couple of minutes here. That's really all I want to say about that. I do want to hit on something else that I've mentioned a few times on this program, actually several times. Wokespy.com is where I am here. Tom Homan, we all know Tom Homan, Iranian sleeper cells could be hiding among Biden-era gotaways. Trump border czar Tom Homan has warned that the biggest national security vulnerability this country's ever seen, you hear that? Ever seen, comes from Biden-era gotaways. Now, what's a gotaway? Someone who has crossed the border and basically either, eluded or were given an order to appear into court and just didn't come. So we have people that illegally crossed the border in this country that we know are still here, that were not deported, And Tom Homan is saying that is the, quote, listen to this, biggest national security vulnerability this country has ever seen is from these gotaways. And I mean, I still don't think the average person, I think we all know that the border was a disaster, a mess, but I don't think that the average person truly respects and comprehends just how disastrous this situation was. In fact, you don't have to read far into this article to begin to get an idea of that. Homan said federal officials do not have a full accounting of all the people from Iran who illegally crossed the border during the last administration. Speaking with Fox News anchor Maria Bartiromo on Sunday Morning Futures, Homan warned of the potential for Iranian sleeper cells after President Donald Trump ordered strikes on Tehran's nuclear facilities. Here's the numbers, my friend. Homan explained that there were 1,272 nationals of Iran released into the United States by the Biden administration, a stark contrast to zero releases under the Trump administration. This is a problem, especially when we don't know anything about these folks. We know that Iran has certainly a lot of people who simply want their freedom, who don't want to be under the heavy hand of this regime any longer. But we also have people that are doing the bidding, doing the work of the regime to spread terrorism and evil around the world. And it's completely feasible, and I would say even likely, that there are at least some. The question is how many and to what operational, readiness these sleeper cells might be here in the United States. It's unfathomable to have to even utter those words. I don't enjoy saying those, but may we not forget why those sleeper cells exist, where they came from, how an entire administration turned a blind eye to this risk, and now we're having to deal with this threat. Folks, I gotta go. Have a great day. SDJ.
Riley Herbst from 2311 Racing here, and you know what grinds my gears? Waiting for coffee. But instead of counting frappes and lattes, I fire up Chumba Casino. No apps, no fuss, just fun social casino games to pass the time. By the time my coffee's ready,
Order for Riley.
I've already taken a few victory laps. Next time you're stuck waiting, make it entertaining. Play for free at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.